Well, good morning everyone. Ian from DIY Home and Gardening. 6th of January. Come up to the allotment, have a little look around, see what damage there is from the storm. Well, here I am perched in front of what I consider to be one of the best crops to grow. So, if I turn the camera around and we can have a little look. I just thought I'd show you. So that's my brassica cage, which as you can see is going to be really good this year, and this is the brassica bed that it was once covering. So we got the purple sprouting broccoli, which, you know, is purple sprouting broccoli. Don't think I'll be growing it again anymore. I had the Brussels down the far end. I got a bit of chard and whatnot, but I'm here to look at this crop. Now this is kale, and I know what you're thinking. It looks nothing like the kale that you get in the supermarket, because the kale that generally you get in the supermarket is that curly kale, the stuff with leaves a little bit like that or much tighter. Now this is actually black kale, or as it's normally sold, Cavolo Nero, or black Tuscan kale. Basically the Italians use it quite a lot, and it is a lovely dark crisp kale. You know, like I've just said, it's, and I was going to say taste test as well, absolutely bloody amazing. Like I say, 6th of January. We've had storms. You can see this is where the brassica cage was rested. They've been blown over. We've had -5 already, not too harsh really. We've had a hell of a lot of rain, as you can see. Let me just give the Jacobs a bit of Swiss chard. I love it. Yeah, you can see how wet it is, and yet this kale just goes on and on and on. And I picked the big leaves off these few plants here. We picked those for Christmas, and so you can see that the others have still got their big foliage on. And you know, the difference that well, how I do it differently is that quite often you'll see that people grow kale, they let Cavolo Nero or whatever get to this sort of size, then they just cut the whole plant down and game over. You have to do repeat sowings. I don't. As I'm using it, we literally pick the leaves off it from the bottom, working your way up. Now what you tend to find is in the summer months you'll get a bit of white fly on it. This time of year it's nice and clean. The older stuff, not the best. You know, just whip that off as it gets a bit tatty, or you don't want to use it. If you've got sheep, give it to the sheep, because sheep absolutely love it. Very high in calcium content and good iron content, so also applicable for humans. And so yeah, as I say, we work our way up the stems, clearing the stems as we go, and it is such a good crop. Use it like normal kale, so you can just boil the hell out of it and use it with your normal veg. You can mix it in different things, you know, different stews or as part of a soup. But what works really well, my boys love it, is you can put it in the oven or in a dehydrator, or what do you call them, the old ninja things. Put it in there and dry it off, and then it becomes crispy kale. So you could use it on your stir fry, or as my boys do, they just literally eat it out of the bowl. Nice healthy snack. So why bother doing oh, excuse me, choking on that bit of kale. Why bother doing a video on kale? Well, basically for all those reasons. It's a bloody good vegetable to grow, or leafy crop to grow. Now these, well, they went into this bed in the April period, and so they've been growing happily, and we've been picking this since May. Now we're into January now, so you know, 7 months, 8 months potentially of picking, well, 7 months of picking, and we'll keep this in, and you could keep this as almost a perennial crop. Now we will keep this in here, or I'll keep this in here until the new plants are ready. And that's really why we're starting this video now, because January is when I start sowing my seed. So when we go back home, we can set the camera up and I'll show you how to sow the seed. Nice and simple. And then, yeah, follow the same timeline to get us some lovely plants over the autumn and winter. So I may have spent longer at the allotment than planned, because it's now 4:15, and I thought I'd just show you how tough kale are. So they are just sort of bog standard curly kale, if you like. Sowed the seed on those back end of November, and so they've been quite happy ish in there, which is just cold frame, not heated at all. So yeah, really are quite tough. So let's get in the greenhouse and then we can have a look at, say, the normal kale that I'm sowing. I have already filled these seed trays and given them a drink, so they had a bit of water on them. Well, actually compost went in. I just tend to use another seed tray to slightly press down, so you get your little divots there. Give the trays a water, or give the compost a water, let it soak for about half an hour, so then it's not going to be puddling and you're not going to, well, cause the seed to rot prematurely. And brought it into the greenhouse to get it up to temperature. Now this is a new compost to me, not used it before, and like a lot of these new peat-free type mixes, there's elements of bark in there. This has got, well, some chunky bits in there which I have tried to pull out, but nevertheless you can see these odd bits of bark or skin of bark, you know, the outer cambium layer. So that's my seed trays ready, and obviously to make use of it, I've got a few other seeds that I thought I'd put in at the same time. So these are actually the ones from the allotment. So this is the Black Tuscany, which is the Cavolo Nero type. So they will be getting sown. These those particular ones, DT Brown, got those last year. New to me this year is this Auric, which is Auric Scarlet Emperor, which is meant to be quite hardy, tall growing, and very much like a spinach. So I'm going to stick that in the seed tray at the same time, so I just thought I'd show you that. And then I bought this as well. So this Kale Red Russian is a taller growing variety. Again, it's going to get similar height to that Black Tuscany, so about 2.5–3 foot in height. And the thing that appealed to me on this is, clues I guess in the name, is that the foliage and the stems turn red, or sort of purple red, especially when you get to the autumn winter time, when you get the cold on it. So that's really why I fancied growing that, just something a little bit different. So I'll end up with obviously sowing the two types of kale plus the curly kale that I've just shown you, so that can be my 3 types. And it will mean that for next season, spring essentially, I do the planting out in the April time. The curly kale will be ready first, and then we'll be able to then start harvesting the Black Tuscany type from May onwards, through to probably the April, May of the following season. And the Red Russian, no idea to be honest, but I'm hoping, well, let's see, might tell me. Yeah, doesn't say anything. I have to look in the catalogue as to when that's ready, but I imagine it's going to be similar sort of time if you leave it to do its thing. So as always, my first job is going to be to write some labels out, so let me get that done first. Right, got the labels written out. So we'll start on the Kale Black Tuscany. Now, kale seeds aren't actually too bad. I quite like them for sowing. Some people use a seed sower, but I must admit I still tend to use it by hand. Now with these, you'll notice that these are cell trays. You can get them in different sizes. Let me just grab a different one. So these are classed as a 40 because they're in blocks of 10s. This one here, that's 24, and then I've got some larger which are a 12. Kale doesn't really need that much space in terms of how it roots, and I quite like using these trays because it means that actually I can kind of work out how many I'm going to do. And if you know the size plot that you've got, then you can work out what your spacings are going to be. You know, if you're thinking like you're, say with mine, my allotment bed 1.2 meters, so then that would give me 3 plants spaced out across there. So then you can determine how many rows you want to do. So I'm thinking that I'm going to do 5 rows, so that would give me 15 plants. So for this purpose, I'm going to do that as a block. Now, let's get some seed out. So it's quite nice seed. I don't know whether you can see that totally without it falling off. Let's have a look. There we are. So it's a rounded seed, and it's quite simple for picking out. Now you can actually get one seed at a time, but what I tend to do is, because seed is, I think, relatively cheap, I tend to do a multi-sowing. So with something like a kale, I will do 3 seeds per cell, and I will then wait for them to germinate. Certainly wait for them to get a reasonable size, and then I will then snip off or pull out, depending on the type of plant, 2 of the seedlings, and just keep the strongest one. And there are some things that actually do much better when they're multi-sown anyway, things like beetroot for example, but as I say, I do tend to do it with multi-sowing just because, so seed's relatively cheap, and it does mean that by filling all 15 of those, you're guaranteed that at least one of those seeds is going to germinate, hopefully all 3. And so then you know that you've got 15 viable plants, which is what I need, rather than the method that a lot of people do, which is put singular seeds in each one, and then if you've got some failures, well then you're a bit stuffed, to be honest. Means that you then got to fill another seed tray and get your propagation done all over again just to get your right numbers, and obviously then you're playing catch up a little bit. Also, you know, there are still loads and loads of people that still fill a let's find one, something like that sort of seed tray, and then wait for the seeds to germinate, then prick them out into individual trays or pots. Nothing wrong with that at all. I just find for myself this way works much better. These cell trays fit into the propagator quite easily, and being in this cell tray to start with then means that I don't have to worry about pricking the plants out just to go into some cell trays. So on top of the seeds, I then got this vermiculite, which if you've seen other videos of mine, you'll know that I always use it. It's a byproduct. It used to be a volcanic byproduct, but is man-made now most of the time under heat. Most of it's actually made in Germany and then exported all over around the world. How it works is it helps to cut out the light levels to the seed. It allows them also somewhere to sort of root into, and as it breaks down it releases these macronutrients which are really good. So that's the black Tuscan done and covered over. What I'd normally do then is spray this with water, or spray that with water. Reason being is that you want to keep the vermiculite nice and moist without drying the seeds out, because in that way they're going to germinate much easier. So let me just get these other seeds done and then I'll show you where they go. Okay, so that's the kale done. They're sown a couple of other bits, so sowed the oric and the onion as well, all covered over, vermiculite, sprayed down with the water. So you'll see how, let me grab some. Oh, it's turned from this pale colour to sort of that golden orangey yellow colour, and so you know that the moisture is locked in there. And now, careful bit is, well, actually I need to take the cover off the propagator. We're just going to pop it into a propagator to well, allow the propagator to do its thing. Okay, take two really. So just carefully, shouldn't really do it one-handed, as that's how accidents happen. But heated propagator, and pop it in there and just get the lid on. There we are, lid on. Make sure you close your vents, and well, with any luck the seeds will germinate and be up within about a week to 2 weeks. So let's see what happens. And that's that. It's how to sow kale seeds. It's not really difficult, but I think the more important thing is to show you, obviously the ones that are back there at the allotment, just to show you how good that crop can be and how worthwhile it is, and so why I'm growing it. So yeah, seed sowing nice and simple, plants are nice and easy to grow. There's kind of nothing to not like about it. If you've got any questions as to how I do things or why, or indeed why I like the kale so much, then please send me a message. Always good to hear from you. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on the future videos I'm doing. And I always say it, but it's so true, enjoy what you're doing, have fun, and as you have also seen in my seed sowing, try something different. You know, kale is not necessarily just kale. So till next time, bye for now.